Story 1. My theory on how Kim Jong-un is actually both gay and Remy from Ratatouille. Story 2. Lego. Oh, this particular piece was included in only one set released in 1984. It was a limited edition set, so there were not many to begin with, and many pieces from that era are now lost or in landfills. As a result, it appears for sale only occasionally, usually at auction. One sold in 2003 for $72. Can you believe that? $72 for a single Lego piece. Every time I buy used Lego bricks, I check for that piece. There are other rare pieces too. For example, there was a gold minifigure, not the dull plastic-looking gold but actually shiny. Wait, where are you going? Hey, I'm almost done. You have to hear the rest. Story 3. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. I would recite my Vogon poetry. Story 4. Every mistake they made in the planning and execution of the kidnapping. Story 5. You see, everyone just uses the shield wrong. You do not always need to have it out. You can deflect skeleton arrows and even creeper explosions. It is totally worth the 1/16th of the screen you lose while it is equipped. And Infinity? What a joke. Get a Fletcher or a skeleton spawner and you are set for life. Why not just add mending into the mix? And do not even get me started on how much more people should be using potions. Instant harming too can directly damage mobs and players. Story 6. The entire story and character construction of the Kingdom Hearts series. Story 7. The College Board effectively has a monopoly on college credit and admissions testing in the United States. We also used their programs at an international school I attended. Competition is necessary for advanced placement programs, the Scholastic Assessment Test, and the American College Testing Program to become more affordable and reasonable. This monopoly harms the higher education system and everyone in it. Story 8. The kidnapper did not give me the candy for getting into the van. Story 9. How whale penises may have inspired sea serpent legends. Story 10. I would like to talk to you about your car's extended warranty. Story 11. I endlessly critique their kidnapping plan and suggest better options. You know, the zip tie is a decent choice, but they are really easy to snap with little effort. Personally, I would suggest rope or even paracord. I hope you remembered to wear a disguise when you rented this van. Closed-circuit televisions are everywhere nowadays. Neither of us needs your face on television. So what is your endgame here? Is it money, sex, or revenge? I just like to know what is on the itinerary. If it is one of the other options, can it also be a sex thing? It is not my fault you did not think to sedate me when you picked me up. Frankly, that is a rookie mistake. Story 12. True Crime Podcasts. Edit. This is not a joke. A friend of mine owns a bar. Whenever I am there, we have a deal. If people stay too long after last call when she is trying to close up and I can get them to leave, I drink for free. My go-to is to start telling stories about my favorite true crime cases. And it works almost every time. Story 13. My 15 story ideas, all of which are fantastical. Quick edit. Many of you are amazing writers, creators, and storytellers. So I created the subreddit Your Story Here Please to collect contributions. Feel free to join and post any or all aspects of your stories, no matter how short or long. I cannot respond to everyone. Story 14. I am so excited to have finally been kidnapped. I have waited so long for this. It is almost exactly like that movie with Alicia Silverstone. She was in a Batman movie but was not very good, even though Batman is a great character. Adam West was a hilarious Batman and was even better on Family Guy, although Family Guy is becoming a little overrated for my taste. Speaking of taste, can we stop for food? I am hungry, and when I get hungry I become cranky. A Snickers will not help, even though it is packed with peanuts, caramel, and milk chocolate. I am sure Snickers once had a dark chocolate version. If not, I must be thinking of Milky Way Midnight. The Milky Way is vast, and we have no idea how far it extends. Edit. I did not expect this to blow up like it did. Thank you to everyone who sent awards and gold and who left comments. I am trying to read them all. The outpouring is amazing. I read many to my wife and son last night, and they were laughing so hard. You are all hilarious. Thank you so much. Story 15. How badly I want someone to play World of Warcraft with me. Edit. Rest in peace my inbox. What is World of Warcraft? World of Warcraft is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game by Blizzard Entertainment. Originally released in 2004, it is arguably the most successful massively multiplayer online game of all time. The current expansion, Shadowlands, was released at the end of 2020. The player count has ebbed and flowed over the years, but the game still has an active player base numbering in the multiple millions, and Shadowlands briefly held the record for the fastest-selling personal computer game ever. Come join us on Twitter, a server, Classic, Alliance, and so on. I genuinely appreciate everyone who has offered to play with me. Unfortunately, right now, unless you are Horde on Thrall, United States, I am not going to be able to move. I am a rampaging alcoholic, and I am too deeply rooted where I am to make any changes beyond perhaps moving guilds. Play another game instead. That is a negative Ghost Rider. People give me the stink eye every time I say it, but I really like where World of Warcraft is right now. Shadowlands brought me back into World of Warcraft after quitting Midmist. For me, that is massive. As a result, I am not eager to try and pick up another timesink right now. Story 16. Why do some people pronounce the same two words differently? A historic versus an historic? That was meant to be phonetic. Also, why is the rising terminal so annoying when it is not a question? By rising terminal, I meant high rising terminal. Thank you. I learned quite a bit about the H-word issue. Story 17. I will explain in great detail why it was the right decision to exclude Tom Bombadil from the Lord of the Rings films. Story 18. After Ayrton Senna's fatal accident during the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix, several tracks were modified to improve safety. Montreal, Barcelona, Spa-Francorchamps, Silverstone, Jerez, Estoril, Monza, and Imola were altered with temporary or permanent chicanes or had corners reprofiled. I could go on about the layout evolution of these tracks for hours. God help anyone who tries to stop me when I start rambling about Spa's bus stop. Story 19. The risk that Clash of Clans will lose appeal and players because too many new updates make it overly complex. Story 20. I have a very specific knowledge set about World War I military equipment, specifically service rifles. Did you know that the French military developed the first smokeless powder rifle? No rifles before that used smokeless powder because smokeless powder had been invented only 2 years earlier in 1884. The Lebel Model 1886, as the name implies, was designed in 1886 and entered service in 1887. Making it one of the fastest designed military rifles of all time. The Lebel was a very good weapon for its time. Using smokeless powder instead of black powder gave it a huge advantage. The cartridges burned faster and more evenly, producing more consistent ballistics and more power per gram of propellant. Cartridges could be smaller and faster, and the Lebel was accurate to about 300 meters because of this. Smokeless powder also produced mostly gaseous byproducts, reducing visible smoke and the sound of a shot. Soldiers could hit targets more consistently, were less likely to be spotted, could still see their targets after a few rounds, could carry more ammunition because cartridges were smaller and lighter, and could shoot farther and penetrate more armor because of higher bullet velocity. However, these are advantages of smokeless powder, not necessarily of the Model 1886. The 2-year design time was impressive but produced shortcomings. The Lebel suffered from several major design flaws. Most notably was its internal magazine. The Lebel held 8 rounds in a tube magazine plus 2 extra, for a total of 10 rounds. That was double the capacity of most rifles that followed, but the tube magazine led to very long reload times, the main downside of the weapon. The sights were small and prone to misalignment. The lack of protection on the barrel meant soldiers could burn their hands after prolonged fire. These downsides were significant, especially the reload time, but the rifle remained preferable to black powder rifles. Other countries took notice. The most iconic of these is the German 1888 Commission rifle, more commonly known as the Gür 1888. Although this rifle lacked the capacity of the Model 1886, it was superior in almost every other aspect. It was so well designed that Chinese forces used it in their struggle against the Japanese nearly 40 years later. And despite the Japanese carrying rifles 30 years newer, the Gür nearly matched them in ballistics performance. The Model 1880 SIX's design limitations became more apparent over time. The most iconic weapons of World War I all used smokeless powder. The Mosin Nagant, the Carabiner 98, the Lee Enfield, and the Springfield used the same powder and similar cartridge types as the Lebel but benefited from up to 2 decades of hindsight in arms development. The Lebel was nonetheless still the preferred service rifle of the French army in World War I. It was old and had major flaws, but it was sturdy and reliable, and the advantage of having 8 rounds in an internal 2+2 extra was significant. France had more modern rifles designed before World War I, such as the Berthier rifle, which could be clip-fed into a straight internal magazine. 3 rounds was not a large enough capacity, and mud and grit commonly jammed the weapon in the harsh conditions of World War I battlefields. So, despite being old, cumbersome to reload, and not the best on the market, the Lebel Model 1886 was the weapon most French soldiers marched with. Hey, where are you going? Come back. I was just about to talk about the Mosin. People like the Mosin, right? Story 21. Plants. I've been dumped by boyfriends, colleagues, and friend groups because it's all I ever want to talk about. I know this isn't in the spirit of the hypothetical, but I did get to bring up plants in a relevant way, so it's a win in my eyes. Story 22. Animal Crossing is a game I could talk about for hours. From the struggle to get my island just right to how Nook's Cranny never stocks the items I need for my villagers' yards. I miss so much from New Leaf. Story 23. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy merchandise was the closest thing to everything. I love jellyfishing. You should come sometime and bring your own net. You and I should hang out more. What nights are good for you? The nights that are good for me are Monday through Sunday. I work at the Krusty Krab. My best friend Patrick is pink. Story 24. I had a completely fascinating dream. I also told the story of how I got out of jury duty. Lastly, I described how I was rear-ended at a red light and how the man who hit me tried to avoid paying for the damage. Story 25. The litter at the side of the road, seen from the van window, is an outrage. I do not understand why people do this or why they do not show more respect. Think of the wildlife. It looks ugly and is ruining our countryside. Why is the council not cleaning it up? Other people must be annoyed, and foreign visitors will be disappointed. Story 26. The Rick Astley Paradox. Why Rick Astley can't give his wife up even if she asked him to. Story 27. I can talk for 45 minutes about the missed opportunities and other poor decisions in the Harry Potter books. Story 28. Cryptocurrency investing opportunities. I am tired of the influx of new cryptocurrency subreddits every minute. No one cares about your Moonwaffle coin. Edit. Someone will create a Moonwaffle coin and it will be worth billions of other useless coins. Update. I could not decide on a name for the Moonwaffle coin, but my new coin is gaining traction. Moon Blue Waffle is legitimate. Search Blue Waffle to find out more. Story 29. The entire plot and history of the Bionicle universe would take about 2 hours to present. Story 30. Why do people give awards to their own posts on the AskReddit subreddit when there are 0 comments? Also, Timothy Chalamet. Story 31. How is he going to carry my obese body if he actually kills me? Does he have trustworthy friends to keep it a secret? Or is it just him? How much does he bench? Story 32. Dynamic equalization side chaining techniques in modern music production. Story 33. Season 8 of Game of Thrones was amazing. I think it was terrible, actually, but if I kept praising the writing and the character endings, they'd call her crazy and just bring her back. Story 34. Active transport advocacy promotes walking, cycling, and public transit. Car culture has damaged many towns, cities, and suburbs by encouraging urban sprawl and creating public spaces that are not pedestrian-friendly. This reduces accessibility, increases pollution, and weakens community life. Reclaiming streets for people can improve health, equity, and local economies. Story 35. I tell them everything. 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 I tell them how in 3rd grade I cheated on my history exam. In 4th grade I stole my uncle's toupee and glued it to my face. In 5th grade I knocked my sister Edie down the stairs and blamed it on the dog. Then my mom sent me to summer camp for fat kids. At lunch I pigged out and they kicked me out. But the worst thing I ever did was when I took my father's fake puke, went to a movie theater with it in my jacket, climbed up to the balcony, made a gagging noise and dumped it to the side. People in the audience started getting sick and vomiting all over each other. I never felt so bad in my entire life. Story 36. Esperanto. I would be happy to regale him with wordplay in the agglutinative structure and to compare it with English, French, and Polish. Story 37. The female genitalia of manatees are similar to those of humans, and this similarity may have contributed to mermaid myths, with sailors mistaking manatees for mermaids. Story 38. Nefarious people relish the fear of their prey. One obvious solution would be to convey exuberant, captivating joy to the kidnapper at being kidnapped. That would remove the kidnapper's satisfaction. This is just a theory. Story 39. Quite a few come to mind, but let us start with how they could have done a better job. Story 40. The merely apparent existence of things points to the fact that nothing exists on its own, and all is a single unity. Story 41. The focus on hygiene basically ends up torturing them by asking if they have sanitized everything, listing places one by one and criticizing their technique. Story 42. I'd probably have an in-depth conversation with myself about the vastness of the universe and how interesting this thing we call life is. We place so much value on material possessions and spend so much time, which by the way is our only non-renewable resource, attaining money, which honestly is fruitless in the end. What a poor return on your investment. You're spending your only non-renewable resource on the belief that you will have enough of it once you gather enough of this infinite and renewable thing that we as a society deem valuable. That is the most backward idea I have ever heard. The best part is we are all energy, and we have no idea what happens after the carbon and physical manifestation of our soul dies. Can I also say that we are literally on a rock floating through space, yet we feel that we are the only thing that matters and that our problems are the most pressing. Story 43. As a former Mormon, I'm prepared to talk nonstop about the faith in my perfect missionary, passive-aggressive voice, invite people to pray, then guilt-trip them for being sinners and tell them they need to repent. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.